Our movie begins with Jessie, a woman who decided to leave her husband's house because he treated her very poorly and would constantly beat her. We also learn that she has a young daughter with him, but she chose not to continue her life with him. Jessie did leave her husband's house, got in her car with her 2 children, and returned to her parents' home. Upon arrival, her mother welcomed her warmly, but her father was angry when he saw the marks of abuse on her face. He told her that her husband hit her because he may have seen her with another man. This statement shocked Jessie, and through the events, we understand that her father no longer trusts her. The reason for this goes back to an incident when Jessie was harassed at the age of 16 while she was in high school. Unfortunately, this incident led to her becoming pregnant, but she refused to reveal the father's identity, which led her father to believe she had relationships with multiple men. Jessie told her parents that she didn't know who the child's father was, which made her father assume she was involved with several men, worsening the situation between her and her father. Jessie felt very distressed by her father's treatment, so she decided to start working to support her 2 children. Her dream was to rent a home of her own with her children. Therefore, she began working at a ladies' beauty salon. One day, she met her friend Janet, who offered her a job opportunity in an iron mine. Janet told her that women had recently started working at the mine, unlike before, and that the pay there was 6 times what she earned at the salon. Even though Jessie knew the work would be hard, she decided to tell her family about it. At dinner, she shared that Janet had offered her a job at the mine, but her father, who had worked at the mine all his life, warned her against it. At the same time, Jessie felt that her father didn't like her presence in the house and always looked at her with contempt. Jessie had no other choice but to accept the job at the mine because she was in desperate need of money, but she struggled with her father's humiliating attitude. Jessie decided to leave home with her children and moved temporarily to live with Janet and her husband until she could afford a place of her own. Jessie started working in the mine, and the job was extremely exhausting, not only because of the physical effort required, but also because of the verbal harassment from the men working there from day one. At first, she thought it was just joking from her colleagues, but she soon discovered it was more than that when she encountered her old friend from high school, Bobby, who was the person she loved, and he loved her as well. Seeing Bobby was very troubling for Jessie because it reminded her of days she wanted to forget, but he seemed proud of himself and happy that women were now working at the mine. The first thing he did when he saw her was recognize her and wink at her with a laugh. One day, Jessie took her kids out to eat at a nice restaurant. It was the first time she could feed them in a decent place, and she was very happy about it. Coincidentally, the owner of the mine saw her, introduced himself to her, and told her that she was part of his team, assuring her she could come to him if she needed anything. The next day at work, Jessie became certain that the men in the mine were not good as she witnessed one of the workers harassing her friend. Jessie went to complain to the supervisor about what she saw, but he didn't care at all and asked her to continue her work quietly. Jessie was furious with his response and decided she would talk directly to the mine owner. However, the supervisor became angry with her and told her that all matters had to go through him, and she had no right to talk to the owner. Jessie continued working, but the harassment from the men increased, including Bobby, who also began bothering her. Jessie had to leave and entered the break room, crying heavily. Her friend tried to comfort her and told her she must endure because everyone needed the job. Jessie agreed with her advice, and decided to keep working despite the insults because she needed the money to support her children. On the weekend, it was customary for the women working in the mine to gather and go to a nightclub to unwind. There, Jessie met a lawyer named Bill, who was a friend of David, Janet's husband. David and Janet were trying to set up Jessie with Bill, but Jessie was only thinking about her children. After several months, Jessie was able to save enough to get a home for herself and her children. During that time, her personal life started to improve, away from the abuse and humiliation from the husband she left, and she was escaping her father's judgmental looks. She was very happy with her children, and always tried to make them happy to make up for what they had been through. But unfortunately, she was paying a high price for the harassment she endured at work. One day, Bobby tried to harass her, and when she refused to respond to him, he spread many bad rumors about her. He said she was an immoral woman who always tried to approach him, but he rejected her because she was a married woman. One day, when her son was playing a hockey match, Jessie attended with her friend Janet, her husband David, and Bill, the lawyer, along with her father. Suddenly, Bobby's wife showed up and threatened Jessie in front of everyone, telling her to stay away from her husband. She said very hurtful words, which broke Jessie down. All of this happened in front of the club where her son was playing, witnessed by many people. Jessie was, of course, deeply humiliated in front of the townspeople. She went back to her car, devastated, and began crying over the injustice she faced. She decided she would no longer remain silent about her rights. One day, she asked her colleagues working with her in the mine to go with her to the mine owner and complain about what was happening, but they all refused out of fear of being fired, and also feared the male workers in the mine if they found out they had complained. Despite this, Jessie was determined to go to the mine owner to report what was happening to them. Indeed, she went alone to the mine owner, surprised to find the supervisor there with 2 of his assistants. She was further shocked when the mine owner didn't even give her a chance to speak, saying he knew why she came and what she would say. He accused her of inciting her female colleagues at work and went even further by accusing her of having relationships with all the male workers in the mine. He offered her the chance to resign if she wanted, but she told him she needed this job and didn't want to resign. He replied that she should keep her job and that instead of inciting her colleagues, she should work on improving herself. Then he told her he was involved in other business and didn't have time for her. Jessie, of course, was very saddened and shocked because he believed the supervisor's words and was against her, leaving her speechless. Jessie tried to explain the truth to her son, but sadly, he had believed the rumors about her. The next day, she went to work and was met with a very hostile reception from the workers. They had written terrible things about her on all the walls. Even her female friends refused to help her, telling her that it was her fault for going to complain, even though they had advised her not to. She asked them to help her clean up the graffiti, but they refused and said, "Clean it up yourself and bear the consequences of what you did." Not only that, but she was also beaten by Bobby because she had complained about him. She was even more shocked that everyone was siding with him. Even her female friends were silent. But Jessie refused to give up and decided to sue the whole company and the workers too. She went to the lawyer, Bill, and asked him to file a case against the mine owner and the workers. Initially, he refused and told her, try to adapt to the situation, advising her to leave the job and find another one, warning that everyone would testify against her. But she insisted on seeking justice because of the unfair treatment she had endured. Eventually, Bill sensed her strong desire for justice and decided to help her. He did indeed file a case against the mine owner, but unfortunately, she stood alone. She later went to her friend Janet, who was suffering from a rare illness and was nearing death, asking her to testify with her, but she refused out of fear. All the other women at work were also too afraid to join her due to fear for their jobs and fear of the male workers. Of course, Jessie lost her job. When her mother helped her, her father objected, saying everyone was saying that she was going to the workers. He told her, "This is a disgrace to us and our family," but her mother, who knew her daughter well, refused to believe this. A town meeting was held against Jessie, and even though her father was upset with her, he couldn't bear to see what was happening to her and stood by her side. Her father spoke up, saying that he once thought everyone there was his brothers and friends, but after seeing how they treated his daughter and the other girls, he said, "I had the wrong impression of you all, and it's a shame for me to be working in this awful mine." He expressed that the hardest thing in life is seeing his daughter humiliated and being unable to protect her. After that, the girls who had refused to testify alongside Jessie continued to face harassment from the workers, yet they remained silent and accepted the situation. On the day of the court trial, Jessie was shocked when her high school teacher entered, as Bobby had claimed in court that Jessie had been involved with him during her school days. They were attempting to tarnish her reputation, to imply that she would pursue the workers to have relationships with them. At that moment, Jessie decided to reveal a truth she had hidden for years, that this teacher had been the one who assaulted her in a brutal manner back in school, and was the father of her eldest child. Sadly, Bobby had witnessed the incident but had walked away and refused to help her. Jessie hadn't wanted to tell her father the truth back then because he wouldn't have believed her, forcing her to endure people's accusations for all that time. When her father learned the truth, he ran towards the teacher and violently attacked him in the courtroom. That night, while Jessie sat alone, her son came to her and apologized for believing the things that had been said about her. He apologized for everything he had said, assuring her that he now knew she had been wronged. The next day, during their time in court, Jessie, as always, stood alone with her lawyer, Bill, who managed to press Bobby to confess. Bill succeeded in getting Bobby to admit that the teacher had assaulted Jessie back in school, and was indeed the father of her eldest child. Bobby tried to justify his actions by saying that he had been very young at the time and was too afraid to help her, so he left her and walked away. At that moment, Jessie broke down in tears, finally seeing the truth come to light. The lawyer said to her in front of everyone present, "Hold back your tears for 2 minutes, and justice will be served." At that moment, her sick friend Janet entered with her husband. Despite her severe illness, she decided to come to court and testify for Jessie. After that, all the women working in the mine began to stand up and declare that they would no longer remain silent about their rights. Even Jessie's father stood with them. Respectable workers in the mine also supported Jessie's claims, affirming to the court that all the female workers there were subjected to harassment and mistreatment. Jessie began to cry, her eyes filled with tears, unable to believe that the court finally accepted her story and believed her account. The court ruled for severe punishment against all the abusive workers in the mine, dismissing them from their jobs, and ordered the mine owner to pay significant financial compensation to Jessie and all the women who had suffered harm. Naturally, Jessie's life improved dramatically as she had finally proven her innocence, and managed to restore her rights, and the rights of all the women who had been wronged. She also succeeded in changing her image in her father's eyes. And with this, our film ends today. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated with all our new content.